Welcome to another episode of Triple Tap. I enjoyed that introduction so much, I was about to play it again. How do you like our new introduction, everybody? Be interactive tonight and give us your comments in the chat box. We have another exciting episode this evening. Tonight, we're blessed to have Kim in here, filling in for Lance tonight. How are you tonight, Kim?
Great, thanks, Ainsley. Very, very good. I'm having just a couple of days in R&R, right, relaxing at the beach with my mum and dad, so it's really lovely.
Super fantastic, and you're such a busy, busy lady, so you enjoy that downtime. We are blessed to have you here, and thanks for filling in for Lance tonight. Ken, how are you tonight? You are always so busy doing lots. How's your week been? Because I know it was only a couple of nights ago we did another Triple Tap, didn't we? An impromptu one.
Look, absolutely. And then the other Snap Tap one that we did with Dr. William Bay. So it's worked out for 4 taps within a 7-day period this time. 4 triple taps within a 7-day period this time. Yeah, look, some really exciting things. I've been on the phone with AMPS, Dr. Chris Neal with AMPS. I'll be contacting him again. Some really cool developments there. I've been talking with Robin Cosford again. The way the doctors are moving across the world now is it's extremely important, and I really feel the doctors are going to help the freedom movements around the world wake everyone up. The data is coming out. I'm talking with Chris Neal about a 170-page document being sent to universities and hospitals and doctors' practices and pharmaceutical companies, I believe, also right across Australia, filling them in on the data and really giving them absolutely no excuse for continuing with to do harm to the Australian people. The data's in the terrible, terrible danger that our political leaders have put us into with their response. And some would say, not me, but some would say this, almost as if the pharmaceutical companies have created this system so they could just make a lot of money, and the byproduct is they're going to hurt a lot of people. So the doctors, they can see it, they see it clearly, they're collecting the data and they're making it clear across the country. The stance they are taking, I believe, is going to make huge changes in our country. TAP is right at the forefront of that in the planning process, in the strategic analysis of where we need to go with this. It's just humbling to be part of, and yeah, so there you go. That's what I've been involved in. There you go.
Just a little bit there,
That's been my week.
Super busy. It's all exciting, guys.
Week.
And we're really blessed to have you all here listening to us week after week. I think we are now, this is episode, I think number 15 now. So we are streaming ahead with all our episodes. So let's get cracking. We're only here for an hour. Let me introduce to you the lady that we'll be speaking to tonight is a lady by the name of Debbie Black. She is recognized as a world-leading expert in consumer corona cold air plasma medicine, medical devices using quantum physics for therapeutic benefits across the biological systems of the human body and blood. For ongoing live research without excluding any patient, she has commenced a decentralized hybrid clinical case study unit for all willing participants. And recently, advancing the original technology, she owns the patent for the world's first systemic selective adaptogen using non-equilibrium atmospheric air to create an abundance of hydrogen, H2, the master metabolizer inside the human biology. A system which can assist pharmaceuticals and vaccines without interference or alone. It's a physics solution to human health for any age, not a chemical solution. Her patient results have inspired scientists around the world. Today, she is in demand, speaking in 14 countries since her return from Wuhan PRC on compassionate grounds in March 2020, including an invitation to speak before the United Nations Science Committee in 2021. She has 10 years experience across 38 multidisciplinary scientific and medical fields as an independent scientist, following 16 years of academic training with an impressive 30-year career as an international chief executive across 17 countries, including 9.5 years in Fortune, I think it's Fortune 500 companies and international diplomacy. However, she considers herself a humanitarian on a mission to improve global health systematically. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we would love to welcome Debbie Black to the call this evening. I think this is going to be an incredibly exciting call. So, Debbie, are you there? Are you able to turn your camera on? And there you are. Welcome to the call, Debbie.
Thank you, Ainsley, and thank you for the introduction.
Debbie, welcome to Triple Tap. Very fortunate I was a couple of weeks ago to enjoy a wonderful lunch with you in one of our beautiful towns in Queensland, Toowoomba. It was lovely to meet you there, and in talking with you, thanks to an awesome doctor who's a really good mate of mine, Dr. David, I call him.
Yeah.
He introduced us, and I knew that we had to get you on. Just cutting straight to the questions, though, because we've got a lot to get through tonight. Ainsley mentioned that you were in Wuhan, and yes. I know from talking with you, you were in Wuhan right at the outset, right at the early onslaught of this, let's call it a disaster. Look, can you fill us in about that and the role that you were able to eventually play there and the wonderful work that you were able to accomplish?
Sure. To begin with, in 2019, I was in Wuhan. One of the professors in Wuhan University was assisting me in being able to photograph plasma from my medical device. And it was very, very difficult to find any university that was able to assist. And that was the only one in the world that I could find at that time. So I happened to be there anyway. So I had my own apartment in north of Wuhan, up in Hebei province. When the outbreak commenced, which was late December, I was in the process of applying to FDA for medical device approval into China whilst I was there at the same time. And I was booked in to give a talk to all the medico-legals and the scientific community of the FDA in Beijing late December. Of course, it got cancelled because of the outbreak of the epidemic. So then I reapproached FDA and I requested to have, compassionate grounds approval to be able to assist patients in Wuhan. And of course, originally it was no, forget it. But about a week later, with my persistence, they enabled me to go there. So it was a very difficult time. It was very cold. It's in the middle of their winter. It was snowing. The people that were coming into the hospital was a huge amount. It was like an endless stream of people, and very fast, like within days, there was no beds, no chairs left. It was standing room only. Doctors had roughly like 1 to 2 minutes per patient. 20-25% of the people that came in were not able to walk out of the hospital. And it pretty much turned into a war zone within a very, very fast time frame. And I took everybody by surprise. At the time, we thought it was some kind of new outbreak of SARS, but we didn't really know what it was. And people weren't responding to the treatment that they used to have in the early days with SARS-1. So, but I didn't have anywhere. I slept in the hospital, so I turned in medicine cabinet into one of the rooms. I took all the tablets off the bottom and shelf, and I turned that shelf into a bed for myself to sleep at night. And
you were sleeping in a medicine cabinet?
Yeah, well, there was. It was like a medicine room, and they have like these like industrial.
Right.
What we would use as industrial shelves with the
Right,
metal
so
things on the
you're
corners.
sleeping in a shelf.
Yeah. So
Lucky,
I had
lucky you're not 6'3" like me.
Yeah, but I had no pillow, no doona or blanket, or because there was no resources. Resources were expended really fast, and because it just took everybody everybody by surprise, and nobody was expecting it. And everybody used to think it was some kind of a rumor and somebody was making it up, and nobody actually thought it was a real situation. It happened so quickly. But I have to say the government was amazing. So within very short space of time, by the second week in January, from memory, might have been the end of the first week, the government organised a plane full of doctors and nurses to come from other provinces. And then it was only within 24 hours, order was in place, resources were back, and things really changed. So I was using my medical device, and this is what it looks like. It's a little mushroom or little UFO. Some people call it ET, but it's not. It's like a little mushroom shape. And you put that next to the bedside table, normally of the patient as they sleep. But in Wuhan, I turned it into an 8 needle machine so I could treat 4 patients around the outside. And so it was really good. I had really good results. So I didn't lose any patients. Every single one of the patients that I treated was able to leave the hospital. So I was really pleased about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people passed away in that,
That's right.
in those early days. And
Yep.
you're saying not one of the patients that you treated,
That's
they
right.
all went home.
Yep. And I was so impressed with the results that we achieved that I was quite excited when my visa was up and I had to come back to Australia at it was the last day in February, the 27th or the 28th of February. And as soon as I came back to Australia, I was so excited to tell our health department about what happened there. So I wrote a letter to the health department. And when I did that, I received I was actually wanting to be able to help people in the Ruby Princess, and also aged care people that were suffering in Melbourne by that time. This was around April and 2020. But I received a letter back from the health department telling me that even though I'm registered with the TGA as a medical device to treat and prevent pathogens of the human body and blood system, which we are registered for, I was told I was not to inform the Australian public about my success in Wuhan because the government's position was to vaccinate the population. So it actually really shocked me when I received that letter back, because the evidence was really quite clear of this. This medical device is quite old in Australia. We've been around for 55 years. It was first invented in 1967. More than 5% of the Australian population use our technology since 1967.
I have to say 67 is a very good year, Debbie.
That's when you were born, right, Ken?
I'm not confirming that. I'm just saying 67 is a very good year. So this device has been around since 1967, and we've got 5% of Australians using this device now.
Yeah.
Why have I never heard of this?
Well, we don't advertise, so you won't see us in newspapers or television. It's not good for anybody that has something that works at such a high percentage to be public, because you end up getting shut down. And we've been through the courts 5 times in the last 5 decades, and we've won every court case, but it's cost an absolute fortune. And it's not something we want to draw attraction to, I guess.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I completely understand that anything with bio or bioresonance in it is absolutely being hammered by the TGA. In fact, our devices got deregistered at the very start of this whole process as well. So I know exactly what you're going through.
So you've experienced this too, Kim?
Yeah, in a big way, yes. Yeah, ours was considered a medical device as well, but was deregistered as a medical device at the beginning of the start of this pandemic. And same with us, we weren't allowed to advertise or say the word bioresonance anywhere, except by calling ourselves a practitioner. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. Do you want to just give an overview? Would you like to just give an overview of what your device is and what it does and how it works?
Sure. It supports the immune system of the human body by producing a very uniquely energized air through a bedside medical device. And that results in an overall improvement to the health of the body and the blood systems. So That's a very simple way of putting it. As far as the benefits to the consumer, in the first 1 to 2 weeks of using the device, they'll notice that they can breathe better at night. They will notice that they can sleep better and sleep deeper for a longer period of time. But the true benefits of the technology happen about 6 to 12 months after continuous use. And what happens then is there seems to be an immune memory that starts inside their body. And we don't know the full mechanisms of how that is happening. We just know it does happen. And we know it happens between 6 months and 12 months. So once a customer has been using the device for 12 months, we know after that period of time, their immune memory is established and it's usually working. And our science academic research has shown that 97% of our patients no longer suffer colds and flu. So, and it doesn't matter what kind of variants of a flu they've got or what kind of mutation of flu that's around, they just don't seem to get sick anymore if they're using it consistently. So it's a very special type of air. It's not normal air.
Yeah, it's amazing the technology that's coming out with quantum and also plasma technology as well, which is, it's definitely the way forward, I think, with any sort of healing technology that's coming out, which is wonderful. So, so it works on frequencies and pathogens of frequencies of pathogens and so forth, does it?
We do, yes. Well, we have variable frequencies. So the patient, well, with this device is 144 different settings available. So the frequencies range from basically from 0 hertz up to 32 hertz. So they're very, very low. And as you know, the Schumann resonance is, sub 8 hertz or 7.68. So, which is the Earth's frequency. So we hover around that. And using biophysics, in fact, Brazil has done some amazing work in this area where they've been able to actually identify what frequencies each of the organs of the human body function best at and how to communicate with them. And I guess you could say we provide a very special type of air and special types of air mixtures for the human body from just the ambient air of your room whilst you're asleep. So, and they come out really fast in a vortex shape, and they fly using pulsed electromagnetic fields into the human body. They do a lot of amazing things inside the human body. And then there's a system that we've created for these air species. So we understand the species, we understand their behavior, and we understand what they like and what they don't like. And these things are really quite important to develop an intimate relationship with the actual species that we generate, so that we understand why people get results and why they don't, and how we don't always understand the biological benefits inside the human body or why or how it's working, but we know it does work. So, for example, I know what frequency to use to help you sleep better. I know what frequency to use to give you energy. I now know what works with a virus and pathogens in the human body and blood system. We know how to work with the hormonal system or the central nervous system of the human body. So we do know how to make it. And a lot of that is actually experience. It's not something that science could actually, there's no scientific test for us to go and do to find out these answers. We know from 5 decades of experience.
At the moment, there's probably no test, but quite often we work out the practical side of things before we actually work out the science behind it. Debbie, I'll just direct your attention. You've got a bit of a magical hand and arm that keeps appearing in the screen behind you. I wonder if you could get your bystander to just take one step further back. He's in shot. Right. Yeah, she is. Yep. Get out of there, Carlos.
We see you. We see you.
We see you, Carlos. We can see you, mate.
Move to the side of me,
Debbie, the word quantum gets thrown around these days. It's in science fiction, but it's also in, we've got entire disciplines that are being created with this word quantum in it. And a lot of us don't understand what that means. To us, it's just like oh, it's quantum. You know, there's a quantum financial system, and there's a quantum this, and there's a quantum that. How is what you're doing related to quantum physics? And just start with that. How is what you're doing related to quantum physics? So a guy like me can get his head around it.
No, that's fine. Well, quantum is, don't get confused or intimidated by the word, because it just means...
I'm scared by it.
It just means many. It just means a number. And so if something is in the quantum, there's a lot of it. So when you're talking about the unseen world, which is what we specialize in, we're talking about, biophysics and resonance and your aura and pulsed electromagnetic fields and all this sort of stuff. You can't see, you can't touch it, but it's there, and we know it's there, and we can prove that it's there. For example, you walk into a room and somebody comes up to you and they're really down in the dumps, and they've got their shoulders down and their head down, and they walk in, they're really grumpy. You might be thinking about a spouse or something like that who comes home and is in a really bad mood. You can tell that person's in a bad mood before they even open a mouth, can't you? And vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and vice versa. So if you're in a really loving relationship and somebody comes in and you can feel their energy and their positive nature, and before they even come into contact with you, this is what the quantum world's about, because that feeling that you get of someone being in a great mood or someone being in a bad mood before they've even said anything is an energy field that's around your body. And that energy field really works, and it is really there. And we can scientifically prove that now. We can even measure that now. So we know it's there. One of the challenges we have with my device, for example, we produce this plasma species, and it's cold. You don't even feel it. There's no motor inside it. There's no water. There's no chemicals. But you can put your hand in front of the needles at the output at this sort of distance, and you can feel a beautiful, like a ionic breeze, a very soft breeze. But there's no motor. There's no fan. And it's amazing. It's just because there's so much power, and the species is moving so fast, and they're so small. And this is what the quantum world's all about. And this is why it can't be measured, because we believe it's moving faster than the speed of light. And we believe it's smaller. We believe it's 5.64 times 10 to the negative 17. So this is extremely, extremely small, millions and millions of times smaller than a virus. So an air cleaner, for example, they advertise they can get rid of viruses in the air and on surfaces, which is great. A really good air cleaner will be able to do that because they're reporting that, and no doubt they've tested it. But that means that they can only get down to 10 to the minus 7. So if you imagine 0.7 noughts, that's what that means. So what I'm talking about is 5 times 6, 4 times 17 noughts. So there's another 10 noughts. And if I had a whiteboard, I'd write it for you. So it's a bit easier to understand, to see the extra noughts on the end. And that's what we talk about with the quantum world. It's so small, it's so fast. And this is so critical for the human body, because to cross the blood-brain barrier, to actually impact the central nervous system, to make a therapeutic and biological difference to the neurons of your brain, it requires crossing membranes, crossing cells. It requires to be very, very small to be living in that world. And that's what quantum mechanics is all about. It's about the union of this high quantity of species, these very small species, and these amazing life forces and quantum fields that are around us every single day, and how to work with them, how to create them, how to maneuver them for the benefits of your health.
So for everyone who's listening, this quantum physics, this type of medicine, these are fields of study in science, in medicine, at the highest levels, the cutting edge of technology in the world. They're backed up, they're supported by right throughout the pinnacle of learning across our planet. They're also accepted by doctors who are at the cutting edge of their fields across the world. And I know that you've been talking with and invited to talk by doctors who are at the very edge of this scientific research. What are the organisations that are getting you to speak, and where do you see this type of quantum health, I'll call it, because I don't know what to call it better than that. Where's that going to lead us to? Where do you see that leading us to?
That's a great question, Ken. And actually, I think that this is the very foundation of humanity. This is the very foundation of who we are as a human being. We are electricity. We are 100% water. We are 100% electricity. And we are light. And without the combination of these three, biology and chemistry doesn't even exist. So quantum physics is the actual foundation of who we are as a human being. And unfortunately, it has not been understood. It's a very difficult field to understand. And also in the past, it's been, I guess, too scary and too difficult to put into a bottle and make it a pill. And so it was easier to work in chemistry and biology to actually manufacture drugs. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. You know, if I get hit by a truck this afternoon or this evening out the front of my house, I don't want to go to hospital and be told I'm going to be given 10 hertz frequency. I want pain drugs right now. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's a happy balance here that we need to have. And I think quantum physics is the very foundation of who we are as human beings. And to understand that and incorporate that together with chemistry and what we have in the pharmaceutical industry is really the pinnacle of medicine. And if that can be done in a safe way, then that's amazing. But in the meantime, the types of industries that we specialize in quantum physics with this kind of technology, for example, that Bionic Air has created and we've advanced, that is very, very unique. It's the only one in the world of its kind. And this particular type of technology is able to work with vaccines and work with pharmaceutical drugs without any interaction. And there's no side effects. And in 55 years, we haven't had one adverse health event. So from those perspectives, it's very low risk and it's non-invasive. It doesn't touch the skin. It sits a meter away from you when you go to bed. Turn it on when you go to sleep, turn it off when you wake up. I think it's the easiest way to stay healthy. You don't have to work up a sweat. You don't have to eat like a rabbit.
So Debbie, this technology is obviously available. When you say having it by our bed, this technology is obviously available for the general public to buy. Whereabouts can they get hold of that? And is it affordable? Is it in a general range that's affordable for the average person out there?
Yeah, good questions. Thanks, Ainsley. At the moment, the Bionic Air is available only online, and it's about $2,000 to purchase. I think there's another one that's $1,500, about $1,500 to $2,000. That's affordable in Australia, but it's not as affordable as we would like it to be for other countries. And so we are looking at options of how we can mass produce the technology and incorporate it with some other technology that's also amazing in quantum physics to improve the efficacy and the time frame that it works, and also be able to deliver a much lesser cost technology eventually to society. But in the meantime, it's what we have. And so just further to answer your question, Kent, I was invited first by a physician in London to speak to a medical conference that was in April, May 2020. And since then and also in 2019 by the professors of the plasma industry. So I've been to their conference in Italy, I've spoken in South Korea, and in both those, that's really to scientists and researchers and medicos. And then all the other 14 countries that I've spoken to in the last 2 years have all been to science communities and medical conferences. And then, of course, the United Nations asked me to speak. And so Professor, what was his name? Professor Senerik. So he was the chair of the United Nations Scientific Committee. So I gave a presentation to them, and they specialize in, biophysics, biotechnology, and also environmental health. And so they're very interested in any kind of technology that's getting results. And we are the only one in the world that's getting results. And the interesting thing is, back in the 1970s, early 70s, the TGA didn't know what to call us. And in fact, neither did our inventor. He didn't even know what to call the technology. It was just a special technology. So it had the word Elanra many years ago, and it got registered as a therapeutic air ionizer. But it was always much more than an ionizer. And it was only since we've been able to produce plasma that we've actually been able to take it to a whole new world. So that study began in 2018, but we didn't achieve that until the end of 2019.
Well, I'm sure the TGA would have come up with some excellent names to call you behind closed doors, but they probably didn't have something that they could use that was intelligent to describe what you were doing, because it was probably above their ability to help.
You're right, Ken. You know what else though? It's not all their fault, it's our fault. We really struggled to even explain what we created. We know what it does, we know what it is, but we don't know how to put it into human words. And that's something actually Carlos has been very helpful in with me and helping me to put that into words, because it is complicated. And
when you say Carlos, you mean Dr. Carlos Orozco. He's a world leading. Come on, give us his credentials, because there's too many of them for me to even fit inside my head.
Okay, my gosh, I don't even know where to start myself.
Well, just give us a short version. Short version.
Well, he's studied immunology. He's done biophysics, biochemistry, quantum physics, and he's a medical doctor and a naturopath doctor. And actually, he only just recently got invited to a university, and the amazing thing for his teaching position there is that he's been basically given like an empty canvas, and they've said, we want you to come and teach our medical doctors, come and teach them everything about quantum physics and biophysics and resonance and everything else that he teaches. And they've allowed him to actually put together his own educational subject. So he's actually creating a whole new learning for doctors. And this is where the future lies, which is amazing.
Mm.
Look, it really is. In talking with, look, the medical profession is headed in a new direction. There are groups forming all across the planet with tens of thousands of doctors who are standing up together saying, look, the direction we've been taking is no longer serving the needs of the people on this planet. And Australia is certainly not is certainly not being left behind in that respect. We've got doctors in Australia standing up together, united with all of the facts, all the figures, all of the data, and they are standing up powerfully. And I believe that they will take, like I said before, they're going to wake up the rest of the country and say, hey, it's over here, okay? And they're going to show us the way, which is fantastic that they're doing that, because we need doctors. Look, you get in a car accident. Unfortunately, I witnessed 2 of those on the roads yesterday. And you're in pain. You need doctors with pharmaceuticals and surgical skill to put you back together again and save your life. Okay.
That's right.
We also need doctors who actually know what they're talking about with nutrition, and we need nutritionists so that we can prevent a lot of disease just by feeding ourselves the right food and having. We need life coaches who can help us with our mind, and so that we've got we've got good health with our mind, and we've got the right attitudes and work ethics and self-discipline, so that we can, control ourselves and do the right thing, so that I don't eat 10 cream buns a day, okay? Because, sugar, addictive, all those things, we all know that, right? Okay, but along with all of those things, we need the advances that our practical research shows to us, whether we can understand it completely or not, if we're getting the results and the results are positive, like since 1967, and not one negative side effect from this technology.
That's right.
I think it's important that Australia understands these devices are fully accredited and highly scrutinized by all the judges in the industry. And you've maintained your accreditation. You've withstood several attacks. You've stood up for that. So thank you very much for being the type of person who is an absolute leader in this field and showing people, and you're dedicated to it, Debbie. You're a wonderful person for doing that. And we've got to have people like you in Australia if we're going to move forwards. How tough is it to keep that accreditation? People need to understand that these devices are accredited, that they've been tested. It's not like just someone pulling a magical thing out of their pocket and going, hey, this is safe and effective. And it's not. This is a case of a device that has been tested over, well, more than half a century. It is safe and effective.
It's really, really expensive to have a medical device company, because the level of compliance and the level of quality control that needs to be in place is far superior than any electrical product you can buy in Harvey Norman's or any electrical store. So medical devices
it's not a toaster.
They're on a whole different level. And on top of that, when I set up a decentralized hybrid clinical case study unit, and I really did that to say so that we could monitor our patients, because I don't want to exclude anybody. So every single person who uses our technology, if they would like to, we will monitor their health for as long as they want to be part of the clinic. And we don't exclude anyone. And the more comorbidities the patient has, the better, because the better results we can get. And the species loves lots of comorbidities. So, and this is completely opposite thinking to the entire industry.
Wow.
Debbie, can I just ask you, just talk with you for a second, because I think I think science is actually sort of catching up a lot more with the metaphysical modalities than it ever has before. In fact, it is probably well and truly on its way to understanding a lot more than the scientific bodies are really letting on with the interaction. The understanding is that when an illness is created, it's created in the auric body first before it manifests into the physical. So do you think the quantum and the plasmic and all of this technology that is coming out now is actually healing the auric body first before it manifests into the healing of the body as well?
Well, I don't see them as two separate entities, even though that they are. The aura of the human body and the way the physical human body functions has a connection mechanism between the two that's a communication, and it requires water, electricity, and light. And, when we die, our spirit being lives on, but our physical being dies. And so we are one and one, we're connected, with the union is the same. So I think it's fantastic that finally the medical industry is now starting to see that there is something in this world of resonance and this world of frequency. And I can tell you now that my whole philosophy when I was in Wuhan, and I didn't have much time, but I worked out that the icosahedral shape inside the virus of a SARS-CoV-1, for example, everybody's focusing on the spike proteins, focusing on the connection between that and the epithelial cells and in biology. But I knew that the inside, as reported to me, was really tough. And no pharmaceutical company ever focuses on the inside of a virus, because that icosahedral it's kind of like having a motorbike helmet, and then you try and get like a little sewing needle and you try and penetrate the motorbike helmet, and you'll never get the needle in because it's just too tough. And it's the same reason why pharmaceuticals don't go anywhere near that. But using resonance and using geometry and mathematics, and thank goodness for all the work of Plato And you know that the knowledge we have of the 432 number system and going back to the factor 9 grid and using the old-fashioned way of working out the numbers of the 20 triangles that make up the icosahedral, when you add all this up, it actually is amazing because you can actually create an F-sharp sound. So I can turn the virus into an F-sharp chord, basically, by adding other geometrical shapes. It's the most beautiful sound of a pure F-sharp, A, C-sharp chord of the sound of the virus. So then all I needed to do was then resonate with that. So then I have to work out, well, how can I use the technology I've got? What's the closest I can use of the frequencies? And we've got variable outputs as well. So how do I combine that? How do I communicate and talk to this virus? I can't see it. I can't touch it. I can't smell it. I can't taste it. But I know I can resonate with it if I can just work out what that language is. So once I worked out what the chord was by using the geometrical shapes, then I just had to try and work out my device. And so I decided, well, I'll go back to, I remember my inventor once telling me, the original inventor of our device, once telling me back in 2012 or 13, he said that there was some amazing research done in Russia back before World War I. But because of World War I and then World War II, all the funding for those scientists got depleted. So their work never got finished. So I got onto some friends of mine through my LinkedIn channels. I got as many Russian papers as I could, and I'm still in Wuhan, by the way, while I'm doing this. And then I started using Google Translate, which I had to use a VPN to use Google because there's no Google in China. And so eventually, which was frustrating, but eventually I got onto it. I was able to translate it, and I couldn't find the answer, but I did find the answer through the trends of the papers that were written. So I found that the very low frequency, and I found that the kind of output that I needed and the trends that were actually being researched back then that I could apply, and it worked.
That's amazing.
Wow. So
That's absolutely.
you you mentioned F sharp. That's a musical note. You sort of communicate, and you're sensing the jokes coming on here, aren't you?
Yeah.
You sort of sing that virus to death, don't you?
I felt like I did it. I can tell you one thing, I didn't sleep for about a week, like day and night, because I was so driven to find the answer. And the way I was looking at it, if I don't find the answer tonight, someone's going to die tomorrow, because people were dying around me all the time. And it wasn't just the strange virus that was killing them. There was something else also, because their bodies it was like they were zapped of oxygen or something, because they'd be walking along on the street. I'd look out the window and all of a sudden they're flat down onto the ground and their head hitting the concrete was killing them, because
this is in Wuhan.
Yeah, they felt like a solid plank of timber, like a tree. You know, they didn't go weak at the knees or weak at the hips or collapse like we normally do when we faint. These people just literally dropped.
I remember seeing video footage of that, and I remember telling you that I thought that was just a fake. I thought that was just an actor, because I've never seen anything like that before.
Neither had I.
Was it anything to do with 5G towers?
Well, they say they were, I mean, China's up, they've actually invented the 7G now. They've almost finished the 6G. Look, I don't know. I really can't say all, but I can say that at that time, a week before, no, I think it was around, I can't remember, it's December, January, around that time, the American Olympic team for their emergency services people, their competition was being held in Wuhan at that time. And I do know that they ramped up the Wi-Fi at that time to support the team with better internet use and so on. So I don't know if that was related or not.
Interesting though. Do you think sound is going to play an important role in future healing modalities as well? Definitely.
You know, it's no mistake in the Bible. There's a bunch of guys who march around the wall of Jericho, and they have to march around in a certain way 7 times, anti-clockwise from memory and make certain sounds, and the walls came tumbling down. And it's no mistake that, you know, architects have very, very specific rules when it comes to building the handrails that go across a bridge, because if the handrails are at a certain distance and the wind starts, it can create a whistling sound, and that whistling sound is enough to bring the whole bridge down. Buildings within cities, if they're not built in a certain way, a building can be demolished when the wind makes a certain sound and moves at a certain pace and strength. There's a lot of power in the unseen world. In fact, the unseen world is the world. Without the unseen world, there is no matter of cells coming together. There's no biology, there's no chemistry, there's nothing. The unseen world is what we are based on.
A simple way for people to understand that. Look, Roman soldiers were trained in a method of marching called cadence. And cadence was they would march at the correct, they would all stomp their feet together as they went across bridges that they wanted to bring down. And they would literally shake a stone bridge to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, so that's resonance and that's frequency, and that's real, and it's no one can dispute that. No one does dispute that. And then the next thing is that you're talking about the unseen world. We're talking about things so small or outside of our range of vision that definitely are real. And we know that our scientists across every field are trying their best to create different ways of sensing that unseen world so we can get a picture of it that we can understand in our mind, because these things have real cause and effect on us as humans. And we understand that too. We know that that's real. Yeah. So I'm just blown away by the work that you're doing, that your company, Bionic Air, bionicair.com.au.
That's it.
Because there's a wealth of information on your website, and anyone who wants to go there, go to bionicair.com.au. This is a device that's fully registered, fully authorized. You're an authorized, registered medical device provider. Have I got that correct?
Yeah, we're a registered medical device company. Yep.
Medical device company, right? Yeah. Debbie, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Kim.
Right, Debbie, there's 3 rules that are listed on there with using the device itself. Do you want to just run through them and just let people know why they're relevant and what they do or why they're in place?
Which ones are they?
This was just the 3 rules to use the Bionic Air device. So I think one of them was no metal in between.
Oh, right. Okay. In the operation of it. Yeah.
In the operation of it. Yeah. Sorry, okay. I should have specified that.
No problem. So the biological range of the plasma species, if Ken, do you mind if I just explain what plasma is? I'm not quite sure whether your listeners all know.
Yeah, no, please go ahead and explain it. I mean, we've all got, go ahead.
Okay, so we're not talking about plasma in your blood. We're talking about physics plasma. And I know it's very difficult to interpret the unseen world when we can't see it, but there is a way that you can visualize what plasma is. And that is, if you think about up in the northern part of the world, there's the thing called the aurora, or the northern lights, above the northern part of the world, above the Arctic, up the top. And that is caused by the corona power of the sun heading towards the earth. And then the magnetic fields that are around the earth, they collide together at the top of the earth and at the bottom, and they create that beautiful green-blue cloud that you see in the sky. So that's plasma. And inside that plasma, there's some very special air species. One of the special air species that's inside there is called the oxygen singlet. And you can't breathe that on planet Earth because it's not in our air to breathe. And why is that different? Well, normally an oxygen molecule or a molecule will have, this is my very simple explanation, if you don't mind, that it will have electrons spinning around it. And those electrons jump on and jump off very, very fast, instantaneously, actually. And so with the oxygen singlet, they don't jump on and off at all. They actually stay fitted within their spinning ring, but they flip from side to side. And so the behavior of that kind of oxygen is really different. And what we've been able to show is it works like an amazing correction of the body, because we live in a Wi-Fi soup and our environment has separated us from the earth. We are separated from what is good, from what is healthy, and our cells cannot function the way they used to. So many years ago, when a pharmaceutical company made a certain drug, he made it for the human body under certain conditions, and it worked. If you put it in that same human body today, it probably might not work. Why? It's not because the drugs changed, it's because our bodies have changed and our environment's changed. So our cells are not working like they used to. Our food's full of hormones. Our water is full of stuff that it shouldn't have in it. Even the rain that comes from the sky, it picks up pollutants on the way down, and it has a water memory, and it infects our entire food chain. So we can't escape that. But what we can do is this kind of technology can actually help your body to restore itself at night by clearing the pathways in the human body, by using all those quantum world. It's having a party, like you're sound asleep, you're snoring, you're in dream world, and these species are coming so fast. They're really hot, by the way. They're 1700 degrees Celsius. That's how hot Professor Larissi in Washington has found out that they are. And it's amazing because they're so small that you don't feel any heat at all. And you don't even know that's happening because you're snoring in dream world.
Sounds like me,
I
Debbie.
can testify. I can testify to the snoring. I have a special gift as far as that's concerned.
That's
But
right.
yeah,
Me too, Ken.
right, not a problem. Okay, so this plasma, some bits of it are at 1,700 degrees, but so they've got a very high temperature, but they're not storing a great deal of heat energy. So
Because they're small.
yeah,
It's the same thing as imagine you're with somebody who's a really big built muscly boxer, right? And he comes up to you and he goes and belts you in the shoulder with his fist. It's going to hurt, isn't it? Because he's strong and he's big and he's muscly and his fist has got a large surface area when he hits your arm. But now imagine something also that's very strong, like a gun, but it shoots a little pellet of air towards your hand and you don't even feel it because it's so small, but it's actually going at a higher velocity. You won't feel that.
yeah, it's traveling a lot faster, but it
Yeah.
hasn't got anywhere near the amount of stored energy. So these little particles, they're super hot, but it's not a huge amount of heat energy. So your body just absorbs it and dissipates it.
That's right. And it does create a little bit of stress in the respiratory system, but it's safe for the mucosal part of the upper respiratory, so of the nose and the mouth and the eyes. And it's also transdermal. So if you're not facing the machine, it can actually also be absorbed through the skin. And so, but it's stable in the human's body, because what happens is it's strong enough to be able to kill the pathogens that you've picked up every day. So when you use it every night, it's clearing what pathogens you've got, bacteria, virus, fungus, whatever you've picked up. But it's not that strong that it's actually going to hurt your cells. So that's why we call it a systemic selective adaptogen. It's systemic, works on the systems of the body. It's selective, which means it kills the bad guys and keeps the good guys happy. And it's an adaptogen. So if your immune system's suppressed, it'll help bring it up. If it's overactive, it helps to bring it down. How all that works, we can't explain that yet. We don't have those answers, but I do have the evidence of people, and we've got a lot of them. And they're consistent.
And people can find that evidence on your website, obviously, if they would like to go there. I think it's bionicair.com. So if you do want to have a look at that evidence, I know some of it is listed on there, or the statistics anyway. So feel free for people to please go and check that out.
Debbie, can you sorry, Kim, is it .com or .com.au? Just because we want to make sure we get it right in the link.
Well, either .com.au is the Australian site. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for that. So sorry, just going back to, so if somebody does purchase one of these devices, how long will it take to get one? But also, just within the operating and the things that they should know about when they have the device operating at night beside the bed. So just going back to that question of before, so no metal in between, works within the 2 meters, and
Yes, so it's only biologically active up to 2 meters. You shouldn't have a mobile phone or a glass or even a pen in front of the device, because the species are so excited when they come out. They're like they got ADHD, you know, they're going to go to anything in their path first. So if you put a glass of water there, it'll go to that first and not your body. So to keep the pathway clear is important. To keep the distance within 2 meters. So if you're in a queen size or double size bed, then one device will be fine for 2 people. But if you're in a king size bed, you'll need 2 devices because it won't get across the 2 pillows, and be biologically active. So that's the other important thing. And the other thing is to, when you turn it on at night, is to be, making sure that you're getting a good rest. We did have some problems back into the early 2000s. We had one year where we had a number of people that were getting still getting colds and flus, and we thought, what's going on here? That doesn't happen. And it took us a year to work out what the common denominator was of those people, and that was that they were all shift workers. So then we went to Bond University here in the Gold Coast, and we asked them, how many pathogens can we get rid of inside 3 hours? Because that was the average that the shift workers were working. And we found the answer was 76%. And this was really important because that tells us that if we told them 5 hours, so the professor said 5 hours would be the minimum to get close to 100%. So now we tell all shift workers, you must sleep a minimum of 5 hours. So that's another thing that's important to do. And yeah, but it's very easy to use. There's only 4 needles in it that need to be replaced. They cost $95 and give you 18 months supply.
Cool. Debbie,
great. And is there
will a bed lamp cause issue? Was one of the questions from our listeners. So would you put the bed lamp behind it, not in front of it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a lot of our patients do is they'll take photos of where they've got it positioned on their bed, and then they send it to us for feedback. The only problem that we've had 2 issues where we've had problems, and that is patients in the UAE, Dubai, etc. They generally have very large brass beds with lots of brass and metal and gold bed heads and these great big posts around their bed. And we find that they've either got to change the bed or put thick rubber around them to try and stop the species being attracted to that metal. Because it'll pull it away and you'll only get like 10% of the species, and that's not good enough for the human body to restore. So it's a decision of, I think knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen, you just don't want to go without it. So, but we do actually run conferences too. We run educational seminars on a regular basis every 1 to 2 weeks. So you can always attend those and learn more about the science.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great. And do you have different devices? Is there just the one? Is there multiple?
At the moment, we have 2. So we also have this little one here. This is called the Mark III. And this one's got special car mounting kit. So it was designed to go in cars, trucks, buses, planes, and it can be put onto the dash. But it also runs on a 9-volt battery, that one. So it's mobile. But when you do that, you've got to wear a grounding strap, so you're sort of connected to the machine. And that one's a little bit less cost.
Super
that's
cool.
fantastic.
Guys, we're just about come to the end of our time there. Kim, Kent, have you got any last questions for Debbie before we wrap things up for tonight? It's been a super fantastic interview tonight, Debbie.
Thanks, Annalise.
No last question, but I just can't. I just, those of you who in the executive who know me, I love to get plenty of sleep, and I like to go to bed early too.
Kent, you need one of these.
I can't wait to buy one. So, because I'm just going to plug it in and just go pursue one of my favorite pastimes, which is sleeping. I have no difficulty sleeping 8 hours straight through. I love it. I wake up, I feel good, and this is going to help me feel even better. So,
you can buy us all one, Ken, and just ship it across to us. That'd be wonderful.
Does it help? Does it help with personality? Because that's what I really need help with. I need help with personality, Debbie. I'm
It's-
eating good
it's called-
food.
It's called bionic for a reason, Ken.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, look, we will have to wrap it up there tonight. We've come to the
Right.
end of our hour. Debbie Black, we absolutely loved having you on our show this evening. That is like, I don't confess to understand half of this industry like Kim and maybe even Kent do. I did comprehend when you said needle in a motorbike helmet, because I do ride motorbikes, so I did comprehend that bit. But I'm absolutely fascinated by this area and this learning, and yeah, definitely it would be great to have one of these as well. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure it's not the last we're going to hear from you, Debbie, and we'll be sure to get this replay out there in the next few days so that everyone else can listen to this amazing interview that we've had here with you tonight. So Debbie Black, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Kim,
Debbie.
you.
Ken, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
And-
Ainsley.
To all our listeners out there, thank you very much for joining us. It's been another fabulous episode on Triple Tap, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.